This episode is sponsored by Collective Sports and TCG, a family-owned sports cards and trading card game store in Derry, New Hampshire. Check out collectivesportstcg.com.
Ridiculous Fondling Cardboard.
What is up? Welcome back to Fondling Cardboard. I'm your host, Mike Lakusta, aka the Golf Card Collector. And happy US Open week. That's right, it's the United States Open, the week after the more famous Canadian Open. Just a subtle jab for you American friends out there. As everybody thought, the course at Pinehurst has had some sharp teeth. To put it in perspective, one of the guys in our golf pool group chat said he's an 8 handicap, and he said he legitimately would not be able to break 115 in these conditions. Tiger Woods came out hot with a birdie on his first hole, but fell off the wagon after his shaky putting and seeming lack of confidence at certain points in his round. He's sitting tied 86 at 4 over par. And it's Patrick Cantlay who shoots a 5 under 65 to take the lead after round 1. Now, I saw a picture circulating on Instagram of a bet that somebody placed for $88,000 for Patrick Cantlay to be the sole leader after the first round of the US Open. And the ticket actually showed it's a receipt of cashing out the bet before it completes, before the end of the round. And he still cashed it out for over $1 million. Now, Rory McIlroy sinks a massive birdie putt on the 18th to tie the lead. So this guy would have lost it all if he didn't cash out early. That's just amazing. The guy sure knows what he's doing when it comes to betting. Of the two, between Patrick and Rory, I would definitely be placing my money on Rory to pull ahead leading into the weekend. Anyways, let's get into the show, because obviously this is Fondling Cardboard. It's not Fondling Golf. We've got the golf card pool going on. And I'll share some updates towards the end of the episode, along with card of the week and a quick mailbag. But the meat and potatoes of today's episode is an excellent interview with Connor Barnett of NoOffSeason.com. And the interview was from March, leading into the Masters, but all the topics we hit on are still current. We give an overview of current sets being released throughout 2024. We have a discussion about the differences between Upper Deck and Panini, and of course, whether Panini golf cards, whenever they come up, we have to hash out some of the controversial aspects of live golf and how it affects golf cards. Here's the interview.
I've got Mike Lakusta back here of Fondling Cardboard and at the Golf Collector on IG. Thanks for being here. Let's talk a little bit of golf releases / upcoming releases and recent releases. Obviously, there's not always a lot of stuff to be looking forward to and a lot of excitement, but we did have some good news as of late. Mike, give us the breakdown of what's going on recent golf releases and what's coming for everyone to look forward to.
For sure. So just recently released as of last week is 2024 Upper Deck Golf. This one was announced in late fall and had basically all of the hype when it came to upcoming golf releases. It's a flagship set, paper cards, so lighter card stock, not an extremely premium product. Hobby boxes are low cost. Checklist is large-ish for golf, anyways, and basically just a fun rip. And there's been a lot of activity on the Golf Cards and Memorabilia Facebook group, people posting their hits, asking questions, kind of buzzing around this. So I don't want to say that it hasn't been exciting and a success. However, in recent weeks, it's really been overshadowed by the announcement from Panini that they've partnered with Live Golf on several releases coming up in 2024. So the most iconic and the most exciting, obviously, is going to be Panini Prism for Live Golf. And I think the other couple sets were Live Eminence, and they're going to be doing the Panini Instant whenever somebody has a special moment. And the first cards have already been available for sale through Panini Instant, and that's basically a team set for each of the Live teams. And then the only other sets coming out would be golf specific, would be 2024 Upper Deck Game Used and 2024 Upper Deck Portfolio. I can give kind of rundown of each of those, but you want to share any of your thoughts before I do?
No, you can go ahead and give the rundown, and then we'll kind of hop into kind of the differences in the releases and talk about why excitement is in certain areas.
So the SP Game Used that's coming up through Upper Deck is it's popular with certain circles. I'm personally not a big fan because the whole brand of Game Used is a higher end product, a few $100s for a box that only has one pack, 5, 6 cards, something like that, a couple of base cards, and then you're supposed to have 3 or 4 hits in that pack. And so when you look at it that way, it sounds like an exciting product. However, the execution isn't quite there. It's sticker autos. The styling is, it's not flashy and bold and kind of hits you. It's got kind of, I guess, a similar stylings as like the flagship product. And it's just that there's some autographs and memorabilia type cards. Whereas the 2024 Upper Deck Portfolio Golf is one that I'm really excited about because it's a new product that we've never had in golf. And it's going to be pulling different insert sets and products from Upper Deck's portfolio of products. And so you're going to get black diamond cards. You're going to get probably some exquisite cards, which is a really high end brand for Upper Deck. You're going to get bits and pieces from each of their properties. And so it'll be a hodgepodge set. Now, normally that sounds, I don't know, not super tasteful, but when you think about golf, we don't get a ton of sets. So it's almost like getting all of those releases all in one for us. So I'm really excited about that one. And then I also forgot to mention there's multi-sport sets. Obviously, those aren't the big news when it comes to golf because, Goodwin Champions, Metal Universe Champions, those kind of things. They've got some great cards, PMGs, Retro Star Rubies, some cool shiny parallels, etc. But they usually only pick a couple or handful of golfers at the most each year.
Sure. Yeah, good stuff. So are all these Upper Deck releases strictly licensed for PGA?
That's a great question because Upper Deck does market their releases as being PGA licensed. And basically that means they're allowed to use the logo. However, I have noticed they aren't exclusively printing players from the PGA Tour only. They will include some hot prospects who haven't even quite made it to the PGA Tour yet. Sam Bennett is an example who is kind of the flagship poster boy of 2024 Upper Deck Golf. I don't know if he's got his PGA Tour card yet or not. Maybe you can answer that. But the other notable one is that 2024 Upper Deck Golf, and this blew my mind when I found out, they included a live player in the checklist. And it's not like a new live player that recently announced they're defecting from PGA and going to live. It's someone who was always playing on the live tour since the inception. And not only that, but he was the champion for the 2023 live golf season, the player of the year for 2023 live golf, and that's Taylor Gooch. So it's kind of interesting to see that Taylor Gooch has Upper Deck cards in a product that's branded as PGA Tour licensed.
Yeah, definitely interesting there. I'd be interested to get an actual answer as to why he is involved there because I can't really put the 2 and 2 together. As for Sam Bennett, I did want to mention I believe he's full Corn Ferry status at the moment. I don't know that he has his actual tour card as of yet, but like you're mentioning, that's kind of one of the top prospects that people are looking out for. Playing the Masters last year, kind of an electric guy, that a polarizing guy for sure, but has a lot of game. So great breakdown there. I think something that's been interesting for me as someone that's still relatively new to the hobby and is still kind of learning all sorts of directions is that it seems like the Panini / Live multi-year deal is really outweighing the hype of Upper Deck Golf. I think this is interesting for a handful of reasons, and I'm excited to get your feedback as to why you think this is. One of the reasons I think it's interesting is because at the moment, obviously, there's a lot of turmoil and a lot of uncertainty in terms of where the golf world's going, right? There's uncertainty in terms of Liv's tenure. There's just an overall shifting in terms of the climate of golf. But if you look at viewership, PGA is blowing Live out of the water. As of February 6th, whatever tournament was on February 6th, according to the official TV ratings from this weekend's action in the men's professional tournament, CBS had almost 2 million viewers during Saturday's third round. In comparison, Live Golf's second round action on Saturday drew under 170 100,000 viewers. So we're talking a big difference in viewership. Mike, I'm interested to see why you think there's so much hype surrounded with Live, this Live release and Panini deal. And if you think they're a poor investment for those looking to hold for longer periods of time, just due to the uncertainty of Liv's tenure and, like I mentioned, overall shifting kind of climate of golf right now.
Well, first and foremost, it's because it's something new in the golf world. We've had sparse product releases. We've been, on our hands and knees pleading for more golf cards. And so, first and foremost, it's just exciting that we're going to be getting new, different looking cards, a bunch of players who have never had cards before. And so, I think that's one of the reasons. Whereas the Upper Deck releases is a lot of the same old guys. Even the rookies in the Upper Deck releases this year, there are certainly a handful of exciting newcomers to the card world. So I'll give Upper Deck a little bit of credit there. But I would say the majority of the checklist is golfers we already have. Gosh, I don't know what the number is, but maybe half of the Live checklist is guys who we have never had. And not only that, but they're not just newcomers. These guys are stars who we've been begging for cards. So that's, I think, the biggest reason. It doesn't matter that it's Live. Doesn't matter if these guys are controversial or not. We're just going to be getting new cards. But speaking of uncertainty, you mentioned the status of the tour and golf as a viewable and a sport that people can follow. Panini has been on shaky ground. They've lost their licenses for NFL, NBA, etc., which is coming up in the future. And so not really knowing what the direction of Panini is going, it kind of created a little bit of a surprise, I guess, for card collectors that, wait a minute, Panini's not going away, and they are signing new deals for big leagues, making moves. So it's just exciting to see them and to seeing the Panini brands not dying. When you look at Panini Prism and other iconic Panini sets, we're going to be losing those from other sets, but selfishly speaking, I'm going to be gaining it for my sport. So that's so exciting. It's almost like the wrestling collectors. I was talking with Brett McGrath from Stacking Slabs, who's a big wrestling fan, and he identified himself as a Prism simp, someone who just loves the Prism brand. And when it came to wrestling, it fired up the whole community. And even though Live Golf is controversial, I'm seeing that same kind of thing happening in golf. Now, I'm going to share some more thoughts. So what Upper Deck was not able to do with regards to getting all of their top players in their league to sign up, get all their cards, Panini has succeeded in doing that with the Live Tour. I don't know if it's an inherent difference in the player's status on tour. So for the PGA Tour, players are independent contractors. They maintain their own rights when it comes to name, image, likeness, and they can basically come and go as they please. And that's part of the basis of the lawsuits between Live and the PGA, is that since these guys aren't employees, it's not fair to tell them they can't play somewhere else. However, on the Live Tour, these guys actually play for a specific team, and that team has an ownership group and is associated with the Live Tour. And so as a result of that, they've been able to leverage the structure of the league to get every single player into their sports card checklist. Now, as to whether or not they're going to be signing and autographing those cards, maybe it will only be a fraction of the league. But just the fact that we're going to have a complete checklist is something we've never had before in golf. And that is super exciting. And then lastly, I'll just speak to the controversial nature of Live Golf. Now, it is. A lot of guys are going to boycott the Panini products because they don't agree with the investors and ownership group behind the Live Tour. And I don't want to get into politics, and I don't really care about any of that. I'm a golf card collector, and I'm a fan of the sport. But what I'll say is, even if that controversy continues on and doesn't settle and continues to be an issue, a lot of the players are still extremely popular, and it doesn't change the fact that they've built legacies. guys like John Rahm, Cameron Smith winning the British Open, and countless others on the Live Tour. So even though the tour is an ownership group, or sorry, a controversial league, the question you asked me, are these going to be investable and have long-term value? My answer is yes, because Prism is an iconic brand that I think will carry weight decades from now. And the players, whether or not they stay in Live, if Live stops tomorrow, they already have legacies. And so having an iconic card of a player that already has a legacy is investable and will maintain its value.
So much good stuff and good information there that it's kind of led me to kind of have throw more questions together as we've gone along. So I got another question for you. There's been whispers of potentially Live having a shortish timeline in relevance or in reference to bankruptcy and how long their business model can work. And you mentioned, a lot of top players play for Live right now. Obviously, we don't know the actual number of top 10 or top 25 players that would be because official World Golf rankings don't transfer properly, in my opinion. But if Live is to dissolve and these cards have come out, and let's say there have only been 2 years of releases for these cards, or even if it's just this year's release, and then those players are welcome back to the PGA Tour, which I would imagine the PGA Tour would have to do simply because you can't have half of the top 10 best players in the world not playing, right? So I'm curious to see what you think would happen to the value of those specific cards that released while they played for Live, if because they only were released for a couple of years before the league was quote unquote abolished or whatever it may be that you want to use. Do you think that the value would rise for those cards, if they be a particularly high demand card because of the, I guess, uniqueness of them?
Yeah, anytime that there's a desirable set that comes out and maintains its scarcity, doesn't get watered down by year-over-year releases, it's going to maintain its collectability and desirability. An example I like to use is hockey from the early 2010s. I had a good conversation with Jeremy Lee of Sports Cards Live about this, and released it a few weeks ago on the Fondling Cardboard podcast. And he talked about his experience with hockey cards, and he's an authority in the hobby. And Panini had an NHL license for a short period of time. I thought it was only 1 year. Turns out it was like 3 or 4 years. But they only had 1 year where they actually released Panini Prism hockey cards. And to this day, a decade later, those cards are extremely collectible. Those gold prisms are sought after. It's hard to find a gold prism of your favorite hockey player from that era because they're locked up in collections. And if they do hit the market, you can bet there's going to be a collector who would love to fork over some cash for it. So if hockey had printed Panini Prism year over year for 4 or 5 years, then my player that I collect in hockey is Shane Doan. If Shane Doan had 4 or 5 gold prisms, I wouldn't be as gravitated towards it. Of course, I would want one, but I'd be willing to pay less for it because there's options.
Right.
And so that's one side of it. Now, if the only thing I could see that could tarnish this is if they put this giant Live logo like right over the player's face, or you know what I mean? Like if basically half the card is branded as Saudi Arabia, PIF Investment Fund, Live Golf,
Sure.
that might be a bit obnoxious and sway people away from being interested in it. But yeah, I think that the scarcity of it is going to be so collectible. And then the last thing I'll say about that is that look at Tiger Woods rookie cards. So we all know the 2001 Upper Deck #1 Tiger Woods. That's his flagship rookie card. But he has some cards prior to that, his XRCs, so to speak. A couple of them that were not pack pulled. So the 1996 Sports Illustrated for Kids, that is a hugely popular rookie card for Tiger Woods. And it doesn't have PGA branding or whatever. It doesn't matter that it's associated just with him as a golfer, not the league. Golfers don't wear jerseys and have numbers on their back and have team logos on their front. So it doesn't really matter. And then his 1996 Masters collection, it's the Tall Boy card. I forget exactly what it's called. But another card, not branded in any way, but carries its weight over years.
Sure. Yeah, really well put. Mike, thanks so much for taking the time to create content with us today. You also make some fantastic content yourself. Why don't you go ahead and plug up? There's the card for those of you that are watching. Why don't you go ahead and plug all of your socials for everyone listening so they can check out the great content that you make?
For sure. I'm on Instagram at the Golf Card Collector. The podcast Instagram is at Fondling Cardboard. Of course, my Fondling Cardboard podcast, we release episodes every Friday morning, weekly. It's We do definitely cover golf cards a lot, but the main focus of my podcast is about having collector focused content about collecting, sharing stories of collectors, and to Paul. To Paul's sentiment, digging into the why that we collect. And then lastly, I'm the administrator for the Golf Cards and Memorabilia Facebook group. So if you are interested in golf cards or you're already an avid collector, come join us, join the conversation on Facebook.
Mike, thanks so much for the time. We look forward to having you on in the future. And I look forward personally to seeing you sit down with Paul, just because I think you guys are going to put out some fantastic stuff. Thank you again.
Thanks, Connor. I always really enjoy talking to Connor because it's obvious how enthusiastic he is about golf. He seems like somebody who's curious about golf cards, which is something I'm hugely passionate about. And he's very knowledgeable in an area of the sport that I'm not. So it's really nice to be able to talk to people from different walks of life. It's one of the reasons I enjoy talking to investors like Connor in some respects, and Paul Hickey from NoOffSeason.com and the Sports Card Strategy Show. Connor is also a contributor for the Sports Card Strategy Show. So if you like his way of talking and interviewing, go check out their show. If the investing talk makes you squirm a little bit, then just watch out for future appearances of Connor on the Fondling Cardboard podcast. All right, before I forget, I'm going to hit on Card of the Week because last episode, I completely forgot to even talk about Card of the Week. And it's a card I love, so I got to hit on it now as well as this week's Card of the Week. So in the thumbnail artwork of last week's episode, if you're on Spotify, I don't know if Apple Podcasts does thumbnails, you would have seen a really cool image, like a green background with some kind of Caesar style of like Roman emperor leaves wrapped around like a circle portrait of an athlete, a black and white image of a very young, handsome looking Gary Player. Oh, that's right. And in this picture, Gary's holding a trophy. I don't know what event it was, but he's all dressed up, got a beautiful white blazer on, dressed up with a tie, his hair's all done up. And it's a very unusual kind of image for a golf card. Obviously it is at an event. He's obviously won this trophy. Maybe it's the Masters, and it's like maybe they did like a color change. So it's actually his green jacket, but it's black and white for some reason. I don't know. This is a Leaf 2011 Leaf Golf Medal. Gary Player, Champ Auto, Prism Green, serial numbered out of 25. I got this graded by PSA, and it came out Gem Mint 10. So I just think this card is so cool. It's autographed. He used a blue Sharpie to autograph this card, funny enough. I've never been a big fan normally of Sharpies. And honestly, on this card, the blue doesn't really match the stylings of the card, but it's really grown on me. You know, if I picture, well, if it was a black Sharpie or a white Sharpie or whatever, would it look any better? And the answer is no. The autograph really stands out. It's bold, it's beautiful, and I love the card. I bought it for a good deal. I think I paid $32 for the card with combined shipping with some other cards that I had bought at the same time. And to get a PSA 10, it's serial numbered of 25. I was ecstatic. This is exactly what I aim for when I buy cards. I aim for a card that I would just love to have. You know, I would have kept this raw. I would have enjoyed it. Grading it, you know, I would have been fine if it came back an 8 or a 9. And a gem is just sort of like a bonus. But when the stars all align and I get a card that I love for a cheap price and at gems, and this is a kind of scenario where I just can't lose. I could sell this, make a profit, or I could keep it and be happy. So that's kind of some of the guidelines for you guys out there when you're looking for cards on eBay. Make sure it checks all that boxes. Obviously, you can't predict if it's going to gem, but just make sure it's a card you love and you can never go wrong. All right, card of the week for this week is actually a card from that same grading submission. A very similar card in style. Actually, it's from the same set. It is also a 2011 Leaf Golf Medal card. It is a National Pride autograph, prismatic. Those ones are not green. They're kind of if I were to compare it to Panini, it's a silver prism style. Topps Chrome would be like a refractor, let's say, or with Upper Deck, they call it a rainbow. Serial number out of 50, autographed. And this is Keegan Bradley, also graded PSA 10. I had this card in an SGC 10. This card I've bought twice. Exact same story. I love the card. I would have been happy to hold on to the Keegan Bradley card. Not that he's a superstar or anything. He does have one major championship, but Keegan's a guy that I just enjoy watching. He's got an interesting setup on his golf swing, and I was kind of drawn to it when I watched him play years ago. And, he's an American, so this national pride with the big American flag in the background. It's just a cool looking card. And to get it gem minted both times I own this card and submitted for grading, once with the SGC and now with PSA, it's interesting because I love the card, not as much as the Gary Player card. And when you end up accumulating a ton of stuff, you kind of have to be selective. You got to pick and choose. And it's okay to sell stuff. It's okay to cycle your cards over to grow your collection and get bigger and better stuff. Leading up to the US Open, I just couldn't think of a better card to include as a prize because it has this giant American flag in the background. It's an amazing looking card, really. And I decided to make this part of the prize pool of the Fondling Cardboard US Open pool. And initially, I threw this in there thinking, maybe only 10, 12 people will join the pool. But it turns out that we've got over 20 participants. So it's not first place that's going to get this card. It's actually second place is going to get the Keegan Bradley PSA 10 autograph. Amazing looking leaf card. First place is going to get a couple of Collin Morikawa cards. And these are ones that you might not have heard of. And I decided to kind of put them together because I wanted the prize to be worth a few $100s, but I also thought I wanted it to be interesting, something that people haven't seen before. So the first one, which is maybe people have seen it a bit more, is a 2021 Metal Universe Champions Collin Morikawa Precious Metal Gems Blue, serial numbered out of 25. This is a card I think I've talked about in the past on this podcast. I love the card. It's one of the coolest looking cards. I normally would never part with this card, but I own 3 copies of it. And I own a PSA 7 and I own a raw copy. And the one that is going to be given to the first place prize in this pool is a PSA 6. They're incredible cards. Rookie, Precious Metal Gem, Blue, low serial numbered. Hopefully whoever wins it really appreciates all of that, because I know in the golf card hobby, people are drawn to memorabilia and autographs and the more traditional kind of card collecting stuff. But I really, really, really love the overlap with other sports and some of the iconic brands and features. And Precious Metal Gems is exactly that. It is a big, big deal in other sports. And this is a big, big deal rookie card. Now, I kind of decided maybe even though it's an amazing card, it just might not be enough. So I decided to add in another very rare Collin Morikawa card. This is 2022 Metal Universe Champions. So it's a second-year Collin Morikawa card. And this is a Z-Force Rave. For you Americans, it's Z-Force Rave. And so the Z-Force cards are this very strange looking scientific card. Like it's Colin taking a swing, but in the background is these, I don't even know what to call it, DNA strands and weird objects. It's a very science fiction-y kind of card. And the text, the font, where it says Collin Morikawa Z-Force or Z-Force, it has a cracked ice kind of styling to the letters. Super cool card. Also like kind of a hollow foil appearance. Flip it over to the back. It's serial number out of 50. So, rare card. Not super rare, but out of 50 is definitely a nice card to own as a collector. But what makes it rare is this also was graded. It came back at PSA 10. That is a Pop 1. The only copy of this card in the world, PSA 10 gem mint. Of course, other copies maybe haven't been graded, but nonetheless, it's a couple years old, so hopefully it stays a Pop 1. So between this and the rookie Precious Metal Gems of Collin Morikawa, hopefully the first place winner of the pool is happy, and hopefully Collin Morikawa has a good showing at the US Open so that these cards become even more collectible and valuable. I'm going to walk through a few more of the prizes in the pool, not because I want to treat this like an update of the pool, but because I know listeners out there, whether or not you're involved in the pool or not, might be looking for new cards that you haven't heard of and looking for some inspiration on where to collect and where to start your golf collecting journey, or you seasoned people out there, what other kind of cards should you be looking at? So in no particular order, here's a half a dozen cards that I'll also be giving away as prizes in the pool. Every single participant in the pool receives something in the mail, whether it's a high-end Colin Morikawa card or some random Tiger Woods base cards. You're going to get something. But here's a handful of notables. 2021 Metal Universe Champions Tiger Woods base card, but the silver dots parallel. Now this card came from the blaster boxes, and the reason I love it is it's serial numbered of 299, so it's not super rare, it's very affordable, but because it's serial numbered and it's a parallel, it has a very unique look to it. So the front of the has a white sparkle. They call it silver dots with Upper Deck, but I like to think of Panini white sparkles where, it's got sort of like this snowy kind of effect behind him, and it really shines in the light. So check out that card if you haven't heard of it. Next up is a Tiger Woods Artifacts Aurum Achievements cards. So those of you who are familiar with Upper Deck Artifacts, Aurum cards are these gold kind of cards that are, it's funny, they're impossible to take a good picture of because they're like a shadow on like a plate of gold, and it's just gold and black. There's no other colors. Very kind of slick look to it in hand. Like I said, hard to photograph, but they look great in hand. Now, when you completed a set of Upper Deck Artifacts, maybe it was the Aurum set. I don't know exactly what set it was you were supposed to complete, but Upper Deck had an achievements goal. And once you achieved that goal, you were given a reward. And this Tiger Woods Artifacts Aurum Achievements card is a different variation of the Aurum Tiger Woods card, because the main Aurum Tiger Woods card is just the same image as his base card. But this one has Tiger Woods crouching down, holding his putter. Totally different image. And there's only 100 of these. So if you look it up on ComC, or I believe if you were to get this graded with SGC, it will clearly indicate out of 100. Even though the card is not serial numbered, it's well known that there's only 100 copies of this card in the world. So that'll be a fun prize for the pool. Next up, even more rare than out of 100, is a 1 of 1 Daniel Berger 2016 Goodwin Champions yellow printing plate. So of course, printing plates are used to create the images on trading cards. There would be a printing plate for each of the main colors, similar to like your printer. You'd have yellow, blue, pink, and black, or something like that. And oftentimes manufacturers will slip those printing plates as hits in their products. So Daniel Berger might not be a star these days, but I do think he's having a resurgence. I think now that he's kind of bouncing back from his injury and he's able to play some events this year, I think we'll be hearing his name again. And honestly, the image on this card is incredible. As I'm looking at this card, I'm second guessing giving it away. It's a super, super cool looking card. In fact, if I didn't own another high-end Daniel Berger card, I would definitely want to keep this. But you can only have so many cards of a player who's not necessarily, in your top 10 that you collect. So somebody else can enjoy this 1 of 1 Daniel Berger. Next up is a limited autograph of Trevor Immelman. This is from the 2013 Upper Deck SB Authentic Golf Set, serial numbered out of 100. It's kind of interesting because the styling on these cards went with this like brown leather trim, golf ball, kind of wacky. Like it looks old and traditional, but when you look at the details, it's got a modern kind of wacky taste to it. So there you go. You South Africans can enjoy a Trevor Immelman. And next up is a Michael Jordan golf card, 2013 Upper Deck SP Authentic Golf. And it's, of course, Michael Jordan swinging a golf club. And this card is graded by HGA, a company known for making their custom labels for their graded cards. So it's got a colored match label to match the styling of the card. Super cool one. The only reason I'm awarding this into the pool is that I own the same card in a PSA 10. So there you go. And lastly, just out of these prizes that I'm showcasing is a Mike Weir rookie autograph card from 2001 SP Authentic Golf. This is the Sign of the Times autograph card. and it's graded as an SGC 9. So there you go. Hopefully that inspires some of your guys collecting. As for a quick 30-second update on the pool itself, we only have 3 people in the pool of 23 people sitting under par with their rosters. And it's interesting. The format is only the top 4 golfers on your roster count towards your scores, so your worst 2 guys don't even count. That just goes to show a testament towards how difficult Pinehurst is for this U.S. Open. So we've got Ryan Klassen, whose squad is sitting at 6 under par, and he's got Rory, Matthew Pavin, Max Homa, and Brian Harmon are the scoring individuals, as well as Nikolai Hodggaard and Sahith Theegala. Second, we've got Joe Faulkner at -4 and Eric Thorberg sitting at -2. All right, let's wrap up this episode with some quick mailbag questions, and then we'll get you out of here. Brent Homer Harris asks, when does Scotty get a card? Upper Deck needs to sign him up. Totally agree, and honestly, I think that Upper Deck needs to sign him, or else they're going to risk losing a lot of golf card focus to what other brand ends up getting Scotty. I don't think it's a matter of if we'll get Scotty cards other than the 2 Sports Illustrated for Kids cards that he has. I think it's a matter of when. I think Scotty is so hyper-focused. He's not the kind of guy to really relish in all of the fame and benefits that come from being a celebrity and a pro golfer. So I think that's probably the reason why he didn't end up signing any kind of contract so far. He just doesn't want to spend the time in autographing and all the distraction. Paul Hickey talked about this with his experience working with professional athletes in other sports, different jobs he's had throughout his career. So check out the past Paul Hickey episodes for more on that. But I think Scotty's coming around to owning some accountability for his position in the golf world now. If this turns out to be a hot streak, he just goes back to, winning 1 or 2 events a year, then Scotty Scheffler might kind of fade back to his default personality. But I think that he's heated up so much, and there's so much hype around Scotty Scheffler, that he's evolving and accepting that he needs to be a leader. He needs to be a role model. He needs to answer the longer, harder questions. He needs to give more of his time to the media, to collectors, to fans than he would probably want to, because he's the kind of guy who wants to be at home with his wife Meredith and their new baby. But I think that he is accepting the responsibility. And, how many years could he hold out for not signing cards? I mean, it's possible, but I don't want to think of a world where we don't get proper cards. So when does Scotty get a card? My prediction is by 2026, we'll have a Scotty Scheffler card that's not Sports Illustrated for Kids. Now, is it Upper Deck? Because Brent, you mentioned here Upper Deck needs to sign him up. I agree. I think it could be Panini or Leaf or Upper Deck. I honestly give them maybe combined, I would say it's 50-50 between Upper Deck or one of the other manufacturers. That's just my prediction. And if Upper Deck is the one who misses out, yeah, they're going to miss out on a lot more than just having Scotty cards. Austin Bailey commented, actually piggyback off of Brent's question, saying, would also be cool if Leaf signed Scotty Scheffler and made him a major chase in their multi-sport products. Man, Austin, I totally agree with you. It would be phenomenal. Like those cards I was just looking at, the Gary Player and the Keegan Bradley Leaf Metal autograph cards, low serial numbered, to have a Scotty Scheffler of one of those cards would be amazing. And I picked those cards up for not too much money, particularly because Leaf doesn't carry, huge significance in modern collecting right now. I do think Leaf has a rich history, and I love their products. I think they are undervalued in sports like golf, where licensing of an image on a jersey is not a big deal. And we talked a lot more about that, actually inspired by one of Austin's mailbag questions last episode. All right. And lastly, we've got Andrew Pokerny saying hit send. And And okay, weird question. He had a screenshot here. Okay, so it's a conversation he had with a potential buyer. Looks like on eBay or maybe Facebook Marketplace, or maybe, okay, looks like maybe Andrew's trying to sell a card on a Facebook group. And this person says, you are way high on this card. I'm at $10 plus. It looks like you said, which card do you speak of? He says, Upper Deck SP game used, number 51, Andrea Lee. I'm at $8. And then Andrew is about to reply, I'll buy it from you, but I don't see it on your page. Thanks for looking out for me, though. Okay. I'm probably just going to delete this. No, we'll leave it in. Andrew, yes. Hit send. I got kind of annoyed about people who just feel like kind of antagonizing each other. Like, you know, without going off on a rant, it's like, I don't like when people price bash. If I want to post a card and I'm asking above what other comps are, that's on me. Don't buy the card. And maybe nobody will buy the card. That just goes to show how much I value the card. It can be ridiculous if I post a $5 card for $200. And it can become scammy or sleazy if you are intentionally trying to trick somebody. If you're listing a common card for a ridiculous price and kind of lying and trying to masquerade it as if it's some high-end thing, then, you know, I'm not cool with that. But at the end of the day, you know, if I'm asking for a certain price on a card and nobody else has that card for sale and you can't just go buy it somewhere, I get annoyed if somebody says, hey, the last comp was $25, so my offer is $25. You know, if I've got it posted for $50, I might say, well, no thank you. You know, go find another one for $25. So, but on the flip side, Andrew, you know, and I'm not trying to criticize here, but like, you know, at the end of the day, I would prefer to just ghost those people. It's like, if you're going to be obnoxious, get out of here, you know, but antagonizing can create negativity in the hobby. It can produce, what are those stress hormones in your body? Cortisol. That's what it was. So Andrew, you know, you're just having some fun here, but be careful, you know, how much you buy into these trolls that message, because, you end up with cortisol flowing through your veins. I mean, I probably have a little bit going on right now, and that's probably a sign that the podcast is over. So Andrew, good stuff. Good luck selling your card. Those of you listeners out there, I run a pool for each of the majors. Right now, the U.S. Open pool is going on. It's closed. You can't join. But if you feel like you've missed out, watch out for updates for the Open, the British Open, which will be the last major of the season. I'll be posting about the pool on the Golf Cards and Memorabilia Facebook group. There will be stories shared on my Instagram, which is @thegolfcardcollector. And if you've joined one of my pools in the past, watch out for an email, because I send out reminders leading up to the event with a link to join. That's all for today, folks. See you next week.
Ridiculous golf card collector.